Pipebomb Radio. What? With your hosts, Felix Olmedo and Austin James.
This voice, this is power. In anybody else's hands, this is a microphone. In my hands, it's a pipe bomb. It's showtime! Woo!
Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you guys are on the listening to our show today. We actually are coming to you a little earlier than normal sometimes, like we normally do for special guests. But nonetheless, welcome to the show. This is Felix, of course, and alongside, as always, Austin. How you doing?
Doing phenomenal. It just feels like this entire day is going by really slow. I don't know.
Really slow or really fast?
Yeah, like slow. It's like going by. Like things are not going as fast as most days. I don't know. There's like I'm just glad this is happening now because I was really bored beforehand. I'm like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah. Well, before we go ahead and place the call to our guests, just letting everybody know, if you didn't already know, we have the one and only Miss Baby Doll joining us today to talk about her time in professional wrestling and what she's up to today. So, without any further ado, let me go ahead and just place the call to her now. Let me just get the number here. And I just pray that it never doesn't give me problems like my phone has given me problems in the past.
Oh my God, over the past weeks.
Well,
I have major problems.
Hello? Hello, is this Miss Roberts?
Yes.
Hi there, this is Felix, and of course my partner Austin from Pipebomb Radio. How you doing?
Well, thank you.
We want to thank you for taking time today to sit down and chat with us about your time in professional wrestling. How's everything going for you today? Everything going well?
Everything's well. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Austin, I'm going to let you start off asking some questions, so fire away, kiddo.
Great. I just want to start off by saying, you've managed, and people who don't know, you've managed the best in professional wrestling ever. Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Tully Blanchard, just to name a few. What got you started in professional wrestling?
Say it one more time, please.
Who got your start in professional wrestling? When did you start?
I started the Sunday before Labor Day of 1984. I started working with Gino Hernandez, and it was a sold-out show in Joe Harry Coliseum. We had a match against Mike Von Erich. Very
cool. And getting to work down in World Class, what was working down there with the Von Erichs like? I've heard. Their following is just crazy because there's so many people that love the Von Erich family. What was it like working down there during that time in World Class?
It was, being, like early 20s and the Von Erichs, and everybody went through that territory at one time. It was it was a lot of the Freebirds. They worked a lot against the Freebirds. There was Gino Hernandez and a lot of the other ones, but it was during this was like during the early 80s that we had with the Von Erichs in the World Class territory. It was fun because the guys would get to they do the shows on like Wednesday and Thursday, or they get to stay over. Sometimes we'd be doing spot shows and get to go take the guys to the gym. It was always cool to go play racquetball with the Von Erichs, and one of the best compliments I ever got was when my daughters got to meet Kevin Von Erich. We had done an autograph show in Texas. Oh, gosh, this has been like years and years ago. But Kevin was just like, your mom's like one of the best athletes I've ever met. And he says, I never could be in racquetball. And it was funny because they always played barefoot. And I thought, man, if they ever wore shoes, they might be dangerous. But being barefoot, they just didn't know, But it was fun, and we were all young kids, and Kevin and I are still friends today, and it was weird because not only are there so many good memories about it, there's just so many sad memories too, because hardly any of the other guys are still left. So I've got these really good memories, but then when I start thinking about it, I'm thinking about like Carrie and David and Mike and Chris Adams and Rick Hazard and gosh, it's just so many of the guys that just aren't here anymore, and it's sad and to think, like how Gino died, and so.
I mean,
I wanted to ask because I know I did a little research, just a little bit, to find out that your parents were actually were involved in professional wrestling for a little bit. Now, growing up in that kind of household where you're always around it, were you a fan since you were a child? Did you kind of start getting into it at a certain age, or were you a fan just pretty much your entire life?
I was a fan like all my life. We had the shows that were on Saturday afternoon TV that would promote the next, like the following Wednesday show. So whatever was on Saturday promoted for that Wednesday, and then that tied into it was just weekly. So it was. You saw what was on TV on Saturday and hopefully got mad enough that you'd buy a ticket on Wednesday to go see it. It was a really weird, whenever I think about it, because I loved wrestling so much. My brother, not so much. But back in the day, I mean, I wasn't smart. That my parents, even though it was in the household, my parents discussed the business, and they went and did the shows on Wednesdays and came back. Up until maybe junior high, my brother and I only got to go to the matches maybe 2 or 3 times during the year. The rest of the time, we were very sheltered. We didn't know what was going on with any of that. And it wasn't until my first match that I was really fully smartened up to like how everything went, the whole mechanics of it. And it's funny because I was like the only one in the room that knew that I wasn't smart. And here there Gary Hart and David Manning and Gino and Stella, and we're all going over the match there in San Antonio, and they told me what to do and what they expected of me. And they're like, have you got it? And I was like, yeah. And they said, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And they all left, and I'm thinking in my room, I was like, oh my God, this is how they do it. This is how they do it. And it was weird because I had no idea who Kayfabe was. I thought it was some girl named Kayfabe, and every time I heard that, it was like, who's Kayfabe? And does she want a friend? And it was a very surreal and protected time in my life.
So you were actually trained by WWE Hall of Famer Jake Roberts. How was that like? That must have been really awesome to train with one of the best.
It was, because he actually taught me how to do the DDT, and we hung out for quite a while during World Class. He actually opened the door for me whenever we walked into the TV studio there in Dallas, the very first, because we did TVs on Fridays. And then we went to the Sportatorium and did the show, but like Friday morning were like if I remember right, there were like promo times at the studio. He actually held the door open for me, and we became pretty good friends, and throughout all of that, in fact, he was the one that said that I should start dating his little brother. Jake's a good guy, and I did learn from the very, very best. He came down to the Sportatorium a couple of times and worked out with me and kind of taught me a few things, and it was scary because when you start out, I mean, my very first show was sold out, Joe Harry, and then just a couple of weeks after that, we won the Cotton Bowl in like a tag match, and then I was outside the ring for the 6-man, and that was like sold out like Cotton Bowl, which was crazy, and then we had reunion right after that, and I was main event in that one. It happened so fast, the first 3 months whenever I first started, and then went right from there into Jim Crockett. I was very lucky. I was in a good place, had a really, really good time.
I was actually going to tell you, too, and I was going to say, because I know that World Class was running there really, really hot during the early to mid-'80s, that there was probably no other way. I'm sure that everybody was, talking about the different territories when they were, getting really, really good and really, really hot, that you actually would have been noticed by so many other different companies, and how you got your start into Jim Crockett. Now, coming in there, were you automatically put to manage, to wrestle, or were you actually put directly with the Horsemen, or was it something that came eventually later with your time with Jim Crockett?
With Jim Crockett, the Horsemen really didn't start taking place until maybe late 85, the very first part of 1986, whenever they started putting Arn and Tully together, and they started listening to Arn's promos. With my good fortune was I was in World Class at whenever they were the very top. I mean, they couldn't have been any hotter than what they were. And 1984, 1985, oh my gosh, you couldn't have gotten any better place than in World Class. And then how it went into World Class was I had 2 more shows with World Class, which was Christmas Day and the day after, which was Miami and Tampa. And I didn't have any more shows booked from that because Sunshine had come back. She looked great. She'd gone and done the rehab. And of course, they were going to go with Sunshine because that was their established star. And Sunshine and Texas Wrestling just were synonymous with each other. And someone had told me that Michael Hayes was promoting Florida, and that maybe I should go talk to him and see if maybe they needed someone, some girl, like a girl to go down there and work. And whenever I landed, I bought the biggest, I went to the first liquor store I could find. I bought the biggest bottle of Jack Daniels I could find. I mean, it was like almost a ridiculous size of Jack Daniels. And gave it to him and was talking to Michael, and this was in December, he was like, well, we're getting ready to close Florida down for a little bit. He said, it's just so slow. And he said, but you need to go talk to Dusty. Dusty's over in the other dressing room. And he says he's getting ready to really blow things up in North Carolina. That's where you want to go. And he says, if you want to stay in this, he said, go talk to Dusty over in the other dressing room. And he says, do you want me to introduce him? And I was like, no. I said, he worked for my dad. I said, I'll go say hi. And so I went to take the bottle of Jack Daniels back and go talk to Dusty, but Michael took the bottle of Jack Daniels and walked the other way down the hallway. So I went and talked to Dusty, and Tully was standing right there, and explained to my situation and who I was, and I didn't really want to go back to school, and I want to stay in the wrestling business, and would they have a spot for me? And they kind of explained that they were already kind of looking for a girl for Tully, and maybe this might work out. And I had my match with Stella, and I was hoping, because whenever I walked out to the ring, they were both standing at the outside of their respective dressing rooms. This was like Tully had one dressing room on one corner of the building, and Dusty had his dressing room on the other side. And whenever I went out to the ring, they were both standing there, and had my match and was headed back. And I saw the corner of my eye. I was thinking, oh, my God, if they're still standing there, this is good. And sure enough, they were both standing there. So I knew I had a pretty good shot, and they said that I was exactly what they were looking for, and when could I move to North Carolina, and they decided on like late February, and then late February came to like middle February, and I got another phone call, and it was like, well, we kind of need you the first week of February, and then all of a sudden it was like, when can you get to North Carolina? And that was like really about the middle of January, and from then on, it just took off. It was crazy. Tully and I just instantly clicked. It was instant kismet. It was instant charisma. And from the first time that we did the video and started going on the road, it was electrified. And it seemed like the talent that Dusty brought in from like the Russians and Rock and Roll Express and Sting, and it seemed like every week he was bringing in someone just bigger and better than the week before, and he got such a stable of wrestlers established that we were running 2 strong towns a night, sometimes 3. Everybody was making crazy money. I mean, we had the Gulfstream, we had the Jet. I mean, it wasn't hard to be, like superstars. And from then on, it went to like Flair and Dusty feuds and Tully and Dusty feuds, and then the Four Horsemen came, and there was nothing hotter than Jim Crockett Promotions, and Tully and I were right in the middle of it.
And if you look back, you were actually...
Go ahead, Austin.
You were actually, one of the most prominent women in professional wrestling at the time, because nobody, with you surrounding yourself with people like Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Dusty Rhodes, the Four Horsemen, that's where you need to be, and that's where you were. How was that, the feeling, just being in that time where not people got that prominent position? How lucky did you feel?
Well, at the time, you just kind of just go with it, because everybody was my friend. I knew them from previously from, like working with my dad. I was, the only girl for a really, really long time. Now there's like, sometimes, 6, 7, 8, 10 girls on the card. And now it's nothing to have a couple of girls on the card. Well, for there, I was almost 2 years, I was like the only one. And, getting to work with Dusty Rhodes when he was a world champion and Flair when he was a world champion. I mean, just know the girl has been able to do that, and I certainly paved the road for everyone to go after me. And it was a privilege and an honor, and I hope that the girls today have the knowledge to look up to girls like Sunshine and Missy and myself, and look at the work we did, and it was amazing. We were definitely the first ones. There was no one else like us before that, and we had a good time. I'll tell you what, we had a real good time.
I was actually going to ask you too. You mentioned the divas of today, the ladies today. Do you keep up with the current product today? And if so, do you have any favorites that you like to see on TV?
Oh, I absolutely. I didn't watch for a really long time. As most of you guys know, I've got 2 daughters, and during like the 90s and early, like up until like maybe 2005, I really didn't watch that much. We were just kind of busy doing other stuff. And once we moved back to North Carolina, my youngest daughter especially has gotten involved in wrestling. She's done several shows and has several title belts, which is very exciting. And then, of course, I keep up with it because I do shows like this, and fans and everybody talks about it. And the product has definitely changed in the past couple of years, and definitely have like the way that the direction of the way that the girls are going. Some are better than others, of course, and some girls you kind of like better than others just because of their characters. I think AJ is amazing. Natalia Neidhart, oh my gosh, I mean, she's third generation, like my daughter, and hopefully one day Samantha Starr will get her developmental deal, and she'll be the next diva on Raw, SmackDown, whatever they would like to do with her.
Absolutely.
So you have plans, your daughters actually are interested in becoming wrestlers?
Yes. My oldest daughter, Micah, is a musician, and Michaela, a.k.a. Samantha Starr, has been wrestling and working ringside for maybe 2.5 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And,
it's really good because she's a full-time student. She works full-time and then does wrestling shows on the weekends, so that's a lot of dedication there. That's a lot of dedication.
Absolutely. Do you actually, do you still make appearances, obviously, for the Legend shows and independent shows? I was going to ask, had you heard about Jeff Jarrett opening up a new company or at least attempting to at this point. He's working on it. The new GFW promotion him and his wife are doing.
I've heard some rumors about that. I've read some things that have been online. I wish Jeff and Karen nothing but success on this. The more places we've got to work and show our skills and our talent, the better. It's a big undertaking. There's a big. You got Vince there in front of you, and everybody expects every show to be a Raw or SmackDown, and it's kind of spoiled the regular fans whenever they go to a show because, they expect like huge spectaculars every single time when, sometimes, 10, 12,000 people and a regular card, people can make some money, make some TV time, and especially if you're hitting buildings that are 10, 25,000 people and giving the people what they want, plus then doing the TV show a little bit different. I'm curious to see what they come up with. They've had some time to think about it and develop it, and I'm curious. Let me see what you guys have got.
Once let you know, there's actually a new WWE DVD coming out pretty soon, I think in a couple of months, called The Greatest Factions, and one of the factions there, of course, the Four Horsemen, which will be actually featured in a few of the matches that are on the DVD.
Oh wow, that's crazy! It's so funny because I never ever worked for the WWE. I never do a paycheck for them. A lot of you guys know that, like Sam Houston, my ex-husband worked for him, but I never actually ever worked for him. I gave him a package of pictures and did a little tryout for him, but that was it. And yet, it seems like every year, every 2 years, they release another DVD with matches that are on it that I'm on it, either like with Dusty Rhodes or the Ric Flair DVD or the Best of Starrcade or the Best of the Cage matches. I think someone said at one time I was on 3 of the top 10 best-selling WWE DVDs of all time. And I don't make any royalties on it, which is hilarious, but oh well, I'm immortal, and I guess that counts for something.
Now, I think
that's another thing, too, is that you actually get to be, with the launching of their new WWE network, new generations get to be reintroduced to those eras, that you were definitely
exactly.
And it's just, your fan base continues to grow, and that people will get to relive and just enjoy those moments as you got to live through them. Has that? Have you?
I was very fortunate. Yeah. And so I was very fortunate because I got to work with the best of the best, and I got to work in front of sold-out houses almost every single night. And if you work with Gino Hernandez and Tully and Dusty and Flair and Larry Zbyszko and have a career, because whenever I add up all my time, it was probably less than 3, maybe 3.5 years total. And I was kidding with someone is that like my comeback has been longer than my actual career. But when you look at my time, like with World Class, I worked from Labor Day until Christmas. That's only a couple of months. And then I worked from January of 85 up until August of 86. That's just a little over a year and a half with Crockett the first time, and then I came back and just worked for a couple of months whenever I worked with Larry. And to have, whenever we were doing all this work, we had no idea. There was not a clue that all of the work that we were doing would be showcased 30 years later. And that, to me, is so amazing, and I'm so glad I was a good girl, and I'm so glad I had morals and standards, and my kids are able to watch everything that I did, that there's no embarrassing moments of oh, my God, mom's ass is on TV or whatever. My kids can watch the show with all of their friends, and they're not embarrassed, and I'm so happy for that. You have no idea.
You've added so much to the managers. If you have a manager, like if you're talking about like Paul Heyman or something, the managers are really for the people that I would not. Now I'm thinking about actually saying this. Ric Flair is a guy you probably wouldn't need help being a wrestler, being managed, but you added so much to him when you were with him, especially with Dusty Rhodes and Tully Blanchard and the whole, the entire Four Horsemen, Larry Zbyszko, and you did a lot of stuff for for in your time. It was great to look back on. Hulk Hogan was saying a couple months ago that it was, WWE Network right now. You guys are immortalized forever because people who are now, that are living now, that might not have been, allowed to see what you guys done in the past, get to see you now forever.
It is. It's so crazy. And when I look back, I mean, after me, they tried to use Dark Journey, and then they tried to use Miss Elizabeth and Nancy, and it never quite was enough. Even when they put Miss Elizabeth and Nancy together, it didn't have what, like, Tully and I had or what Flair and I had back, 5 to 7 years before that. It was just a magic, and it was chemistry, and people loved to hate me. And it was something that I guess I'm born with. I guess I'm gifted with it. It's a lot of my mom, and hopefully Samantha's got it, and we'll just showcase it from one generation to another.
And if your fans on the social media want to keep in contact with you, what would be the best way to do that?
I've got a Facebook page, and it's under my name. It's under Nicola Roberts. There's nothing really fancy about it. And I try and answer. I read all of my mail. I try my best to answer all of it myself. I really should have an assistant, and I don't, but I try and keep the personal effect with it. They can always message me. I've got a lot of pictures on there. There's also a lot of pictures back in the day on my MySpace page. But just hit me up on Facebook, and I'm on there under Nicola Roberts. And I'm the only Nicola, which is Nickla. You can also just Google Baby Doll the Perfect 10 and get a lot of videos on that also.
Absolutely. And do you actually have anything like Twitter or Instagram at all, or have thought about doing something like that?
Oh my Lord, I got Twitter, and it's just like, you know what, y'all can do that. So it's enough for me to keep up with Facebook. It's enough because sometimes I'll get like 50 messages just in one day on Facebook, and that's a lot to go through. And when you think that all of this was 30 years ago, and for you guys to remember me and for my memories to be cherished, you have no idea what that means to me, and it just amazes me. The resurgence of these people all the time that find out through YouTube or through friends or through like social media or just going through YouTube of like, wow, there's a lot of really good stuff out there, and I'm glad I was a part of it.
Just one last thing. It's a great time in the business. Go ahead, Austin. I'm sorry.
Well, I always say to people like that have been really successful, and not many people actually go out and do what they want to do in their life, and you went out and did every single thing. I believe. I mean, I don't know if you have any regrets. I don't think you should with being a manager of the people that you have been and just wrestling. That's not many people actually go out and really do what they want to do with their lives and you'd be dead. And people are still doing it now. And
the business is different to get into now. I mean, you have to do developmental or there's just, but it comes down to if you really want it. If you're willing to take that chance, and I was young, I didn't have kids, I was going to school, I was going to EMT school in college, and I might should have probably finished my education, but I didn't, and if I had, things would have been different. It would have turned out the same, and right now I'm so happy. I've worked really hard to be in a really, really good place. Both of my kids are full-time college students. One's a manager at Sonic. The other one's following her music career. And I couldn't be happier. And my ex-husband, Sam, everybody knows how well he's doing with his recovery. And karma, they say, is a bitch. But you know what? Karma can be very, very gracious at times. And right now, I'm very healthy and very happy and loving life and what all it has to give to me, and I'm very, very happy girl.
Did you actually have any upcoming legend shows that you might be showing up at in the near future that you'd like to talk about? Or even talk about
really,
that you're going to be
the only thing that I'm really doing right now is the WrestleCade show at the end of November. Sam and I are going to be booked on that. That's like the biggest show in North Carolina. I'll have a bunch of stuff posted on that. Right now, that's the only show that I'm booked for. There were a lot of like Legend Fan Fest and things like that whenever I first moved back to North Carolina, but that's kind of died off. The biggest show right now is the WrestleCade, and they'll have everybody there. And I'm fortunate to be a part of that. And right now, just taking a little bit of time off and enjoying my family, and going to set up my pool and get all tan and looking good this summer and see what happens.
That's awesome. You know, I want to say, Mr. Roberts, it's been such a pleasure to relive those moments that you got to take part in during your time in wrestling. And on behalf of Austin and myself, we can't thank you enough for taking some time to sit down with us today and just talking about them. I know it was so much fun for you back then, and the fact that new generations to come and from here on out will definitely get to relive those moments you were a big part of. We would definitely love to have you again come back on in the near future for me. And even as you get closer to that WrestleCade show, to even kind of help promote that show, if you like, maybe in November sometime. But today,
maybe towards the end of the year. Sure, that sounds really good. Towards the end of the year, maybe we can get Samantha on here, or maybe I'll try and get Sam Houston for you also.
Absolutely. Indeed, an honor. Austin, did you have any final words, any last questions you have for Ms. Roberts?
That's it for me. I just want to thank you so much for everything, for your hours of entertainment and stuff that you've given us, the fans, and everybody that's watching now. They will, actually avail. I can't even talk right now. Available to use.
I have that effect.
I know it's good today. But yeah, thank you so much. Really, thank you. I really appreciate all that you've done.
Well, y'all are welcome. Thank you so much. I have to send a shout out. I've got a friend of mine. He's a super huge wrestling fan. His name is Clough. And he was like, are you going to mention me? Are you going to mention me? So I have to mention my friend. And y'all hit me up on Facebook and keep watching wrestling. What's really funny is our wrestling fans that poo-poo the WWE, or I'm never going to watch WWE again, or I'm never going to watch TNA, or wrestling this or wrestling that. I'll tell you what, last night, if you saw the match with Sheamus and the match with Cesaro and RVD, y'all missed a really good show. So for all of y'all just squawking how bad wrestling is, y'all missed two really good matches last night. So sorry I didn't, and y'all did.
Amen to that. Couldn't have said it any other way any better.
All right. Thank you so much, y'all. It's been a delight. And until whenever, this has been Baby Doll.
All right. The one and only Baby Doll. What a sweet lady. She was so cool. She was so cool. I enjoyed that.
Just me being the person I am, I cannot believe I just talked to her, because if you even have any idea how important she was, I mean, just in the 30 years ago, the Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, I keep on naming this, Larry Zitterfield. There's many people who didn't name that she's managed, but I mean,
at that time, Rhodes, like you said, we may not have been around, or maybe too young to remember how hot wrestling was back then. I mean, I believe I could even compare it to the Attitude Era that it was in our generation. To that one, because it was Jim Crockett was so hot at that point. I mean, this is dating before WrestleMania. If you around that time up to WrestleMania, that Jim Crockett in that area, that whole territory days were really just kicking butt.
And not only that, but I mean, WCCW still. I mean, people are still freaking out. Or we've seen that in the past with Kevin Von Erich being on the show, and how many fans he has, and it's still the most watched show that we ever had with the Von Erich song. People love the Von Erichs. They love that those days were some of the best ever. And might not have been alive at the time, but I've watched a ton of it. And I know what happened. I know what went on. It's some of the spectacular moments in professional wrestling.
It would have been better to live through them, to see him in person. Obviously you and I both can agree with that. But because we can't even imagine what it was like during that time. And I mean, obviously, we've had people tell us either they lived through it, or as fans they got to see it and how crazy it was, and how much fun it was back then. Because I know the fact that people had better opportunities to learn their craft, to better their craft back then than they do now, and with the opportunity of more companies opening up now than this generation, I think it's going to allow some of the feeling of the old territories to come back, so to speak, if that makes sense.
And we actually have, and we promise this. We always make our promises. We always keep them. Next week we will be having Dan Severn back on. Severn. I don't know. I think his name is pronounced
I know I give you a hard time of Severn. Severn is Dan the Beast Severn. We scheduled him at the beginning of this month.
Really
Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Austin stayed in contact with Mr. Severn and has set him up again for sure, and to come on the show this next Tuesday. Did we decide on a time, or
it's going to be the same time?
Is it going to be an early show next week as well, or is it going to be regular time?
It's going to be the same time. But Jesus, I cannot talk to that at all, and that's probably not going to be the last time either. But people who don't know who Dan Severn is, he is a guy that's been a multiple time world champion, UFC Hall of Famer. He's also had his hand in professional wrestling, both in being the NWA world champion at one time and also being in WWE. And he's done a lot. And I cannot wait to speak to him.
Absolutely. It'd be definitely an honor to speak to him and find out what he's been up to. And I have a feeling, I think he still does shows even now, too. But
and that's the guy who loves his fans, too. He takes his personal time out just to greet them.
Yeah. And the way things are going now, I mean, who's to say things might get better over the summer? Definitely, we got to start striving to get some more and more guests coming on, and I definitely want to bring Miss Roberts back as we get closer to her upcoming show to help kind of talk about what's coming up on that show. Stay tuned for that, guys. We'll definitely be in touch.
I actually had a good idea. I had a really good idea. The WWE Greatest Action DVD will be coming out in a couple of months, or even sooner than that. And even our former guest, Ken Doan, part of the Spirit Squad, is on that DVD, along with Ms. David All. She's also there with the Four Horsemen. And I think it'd be perfect just to have a combination show, kind of like a double feature, to bring them both on.
That actually might be a pretty damn good idea.
I mean, the Spirit Squad was a cool thing in itself. If you ever, went to that time and seen that a couple of years ago, that was insane. It's some of the funniest moments you've ever watched.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up today. Enjoyed our show, our chance to speak with Miss Baby Doll. Definitely an impactful player during wrestling's peak in about 30 years ago, and
good time.
gets to be reintroduced to new generations from here, for years to come now. But on behalf of Austin and myself, Felix, for Pipebomb Radio, I will close it like I normally do. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Good night, everybody. Good night, Austin. Have fun.
Will do. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.